Hey everybody, Scott with Tango Down Production. I want to apologize. I tried to make a video the other day, but my camera was being dumb, so I bounced it off the wall and used it as a hockey puck, and turns out it works fine now, so who would have thought. But anyway, two-part video tonight. First one's going to be a little story on how my Kimber actually got refinished with the two-tone black over green. Kind of a funny deal with that. One day I was getting ready to go out in town and run a couple errands, and a friend of mine's with me, and I said, oh wait, let me go get my blaster out of the bedroom and I'll be ready to go. Well, grabbed my safe off the shelf, pulled it down, opened it up, and there was my Kimber. And at the time it was all black, but it had rust all over it. I'm like, what the hell? I mean, how'd it get rusted? I mean, it's a safe, it was closed. Well, I was completely freaked out. I couldn't find any water leakage in the apartment. I'm looking all over the place. Called my wife. She's like, well, I did see it up the other morning and I shut it because that night when you came home, I think you just forgot to close the safe. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm still trying to figure out how the water got it, or how it got, rusted. Well, I had a towel underneath it, and so when I reached down and pulled the Kimber out, and I was trying to feel the towel, and it was dry, but I caught a really nasty ammonia smell, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. And all of a sudden it clicked. It was like a light bulb went off. My friggin' cat pissed on my Kimber. Now, what possessed him to do that, I have no idea. And how he even got up on the shelf where it was is beyond me. But you want to talk about I really had my friend, I had him, I'm like, hey, smell this. Just tell me what you think. He's like, dude, that's cat piss. And I'm like, yeah. And we couldn't figure it out. So now I learned a valuable lesson there. And I also found out that a cat works really good as a suppressor for a 1911, but it's only good for one-time use. So anyway, all right. Second part is I had a user earlier in another video. He said that he was curious in that Deputy Kyle Dinkheller slaying on that traffic stop, if that officer would have been carrying a .44 Magnum and shot the suspect one time, would that have probably stopped the threat versus what he was carrying, which was a 9mm Glock. And first off, I want to start out by saying nobody carries a .44 Magnum anymore. The days of Dirty Harry are pretty much gone. You'll see a lot of guys out there that are collectors and big fans of antiquated revolvers. And I don't want to say the .44 is gone altogether. I mean, you see it a lot in the Desert Eagle format. But as far as a .44 revolver and a .44 Magnum being carried on your person, it's not practical. It's hard to conceal, and it's not easily controllable when you're firing multiple shots in an adrenaline-charged situation. So it's more of a novelty round, I like to call it. It's fun to go to the range and blow up watermelons with it because it does a pretty good job. But to answer his question, had the deputy been carrying a .44, yeah, I think there would have been a little more resistance upon the suspect to want to continue in the fight had he been shot with that versus a 9mm in the stomach, because the deputy only hit him the one time, and I mean, he was found the next day alive. So I mean, kind of tells you right there, with a 9, you really got to hit a suspect, in my opinion, especially one who's pretty determined on taking you down. You really want to fill him full of holes as much as you can. So, but that's with anything. You want to create wound channels, crush tissue, break bone, and damage organs. In any gunfight, that's your ultimate goal when you're shooting that target. That's what you want to occur. That's what you want to happen. So, but I wanted to go a little bit further, and I did a printout. Now, that officer, I'm just assuming this is what he was carrying. I don't know. But a 9mm jacketed hollow point at 115 grain bullet comes out of the barrel moving at 1,225 feet per second. Okay, that's pretty fast. That's cooking for a handgun round. The foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle are 383, which really isn't that much. In fact, if you look here, it's only maybe about 115 more. No, not even. About 115 more than a 38 Special Plus P round. But overall, they're not too far in ballistics differences there. And you got to remember too, the 9mm on the low end of the carry pistol for calibers. Most people prefer something a little bit bigger, 40, 45. As a 40 is probably the #1 most popular round out there for concealed carry and for personal defense. But yeah, let's look at the .44 Remington Magnum. 210 grain bullet, jacketed hollow point, coming out of the barrel, 1,250 feet per second. So it's actually moving a slight bit faster, not much, but a slight bit faster than the 9mm. but at the muzzle it's generating 729 foot-pounds of pressure. So that's got a lot more juice. In fact, that's almost double what the 9mm is pushing. So, but keep that in mind though, you're pushing a heavier slug faster, so you're going to generate more recoil, and you got to make sure you're hitting your target, because I mean if you miss with that, I mean you certainly don't want that landed in a bus full of nuns, because you're going to kill half of them before the bullet leaves the bus. So and that's out of a 4-inch barrel, by the way, so on both weapons. So yeah, I mean, had he been carrying a 44, even a 357 Magnum, which is absolutely a phenomenal round. I love the 357 Magnum. In fact, that's why the 40 caliber Glocks in a lot of ways are real popular, because you can buy the Lone Wolf conversion barrel to shoot 357 SIG round, which right here it tells you if you're shooting a Glazer safety slug out of the 357 SIG, which it's a very light bullet, it's an 80 grain bullet, but it's moving at 1,650 feet per second out of the muzzle and generating 484 foot-pounds of pressure. I mean, that's pretty impressive. That's out of a 5-inch barrel, which is what most of them are coming off the Glocks. But yeah, it's that's pretty damaging. I mean, that's just gonna destroy. That's gonna leave a canoe out the guy's backside. So yes, you know, there's a lot of other rounds out there. The 40 Smith & Wesson, they don't list it here. I shoot 100. Well, yeah, the 155 grain jacketed hollow point, which for target practice I use the 180, but regardless, it's moving at 1,205 feet per second, generating 500 foot-pounds of pressure. So that's pretty darn good. I mean, that's nice. That's what you're wanting right there. But you know, I mean, regardless, in any gunfight, okay, shot placement is key, and the damage that bullet incurs when it hits the body is key. So I've got a interesting autopsy email from a good friend of mine who's a police officer about a guy who was shot with 180 grain 40 caliber gold dots at right around the 25 to 30 foot mark, and one round actually hits the guy in the neck and only goes in about an inch and stops and never even deforms. That blew me away. I was really shocked, but when I looked at the ballistics of it, I'm like, well, in a way it doesn't really surprise me, because it's a heavy slug. 180 grains out of a 40 cal, that's pretty heavy. That's why I like the lighter bullets. I want something that's going to get through the clothing, through the tissue, in there, and damage what's inside there in order to stop that machine from continuing to operate and wanting to kill me or anyone else for that matter. So anyway, guys, if you have any other questions, please feel free to ask. If I don't know the answer off the top of my dome, I will look it up and research it and get you the right answers and get you the most accurate information that I can for what's out there. So, but anyway, take care, guys. Thanks a lot for subscribing. And if you want any videos on any particular weapon formats or any piece of gear that I can get my hands on, please leave requests. I will try to fulfill them as best I can. But take care of yourselves, and remember, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.